I go ahead and recognize Ranking Member Lucas for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Dr. Jacobs, following up on the first part of the Chair's series of questions in regards to spectrum and those resources, if NOAA is forced to stop work on its polar satellites, is there another type of observation that can offset that loss?
Not today. I can't say that one wouldn't exist in the future, but there's not an existing capability to mitigate that data loss that exists today.
So this really matters.
Yes.
Dr. Jacobs, I understand NOAA is still conducting the Commercial Weather Data Pilot Program. Can you give us an update on the program, and is NOAA still considering purchasing commercial data?
Yes, with respect to the testing of the GPSRO data in our models, we're seeing a very promising impact. We've transitioned this over to actually in the proposed budget to acquire this data as an operational data source. The Commercial Weather Data Pilot Program will actually look at additional instruments beyond GPSRO, perhaps hyperspectral sounders or other instruments.
Turning to you, Dr. Freeberg, the Mesonet is a valuable resource which assists Oklahomans across the state in decisions ranging from farmers deciding when to plant, that soil temperature key being very important, to emergency personnel preparing for weather events. Can you describe to the committee what makes the Oklahoma Mesonet unique?
Thank you for the question, Representative Lucas. I think one of the big things that makes Oklahoma's Mesonet unique is that we have survived 25 years, because it is a great challenge for the state networks to find the funding to keep these networks going from year to year.
At least twice in my tenure in Congress, I've made calls home to I'm a former state legislator, calls home to my old friends about how important this is over the course of the last decade. Absolutely. Do you think we could replicate this model on a larger scale to provide the kind of weather forecast thing that we do in Oklahoma?
Certainly. Once we developed the Mesonet in Oklahoma, others took notice. They saw the dividends we were bringing to Oklahoma. And over the years, we've worked with 25 states and countries to help them plan and operate Mesonets in their regions across the U.S. Because, as Dr. Chen mentioned, the weather doesn't stop at boundaries, at state boundaries. We need those observations in neighboring states like Texas and Kansas and Colorado to help make predictions in Oklahoma also.
In my home community, we're, of course, on the east side of the Rockies, Southern Plains, the western part of the state, as you well know. Prescribed burns are a very important part of maintaining the ecology of the national grasslands. My colleagues here who have not had a chance to look at your website would be amazed at the information that the Mesonet provides, and literally no prescribed burn plan in Oklahoma starts without a requirement to examine on a moment-by-moment basis the Mesonet sites before you can move on. That said, in your role as Executive Director of the Mesonet and a faculty member at the University of Oklahoma School of Meteorology, you're uniquely positioned to offer testimony to this committee about the collaboration between federal, academic, and industry. In your experience, is there enough collaboration between the different components of the weather enterprise? And for that matter, what actions could this committee take to promote a more effective collaboration, Doctor?
Well, as I mentioned, the National Mesonet Program that I've been able to witness, I think, is a perfect example of that public-private partnership, that cost-sharing model where you can take the expertise of the universities at the state level, work with the private sector, and provide the federal government tens of thousands of additional observations at a fraction of the cost. I think specifically this committee could help promote that collaboration by steady growth of the program, supporting the program, because as we have more observations, the forecast will improve. As there's more support, it'll give researchers the opportunity to look into new technologies in Mesonets. I think a really exciting one is using UAVs. We've launched over 1,000 UAVs at our Mesonet sites in prototype mode to look at how that could provide observations of the lower boundary layer to provide to Weather Service forecasters.
Thank you, Doctor. Just one more time, Dr. Jacobs. Let's go back for a moment to the polar satellites. At the present time, if we lose the ability to use those, there's not another resource of that nature at the present time available to replace them with that consistency.
No, we have no other capability to passively observe water vapor